नमस्कार, मैं फिर से आपके सामने आया हूँ। अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मैं आपसे बात कर रहा था तो मैं आपसे माफ़ी माँग रहा था हमारी तरफ से जो डिले हुआ है डॉक्टर सज़ावाल के साथ जो ये लाइव सेशन होने वाला था। कुछ टेक्निकल इश्यूज़ आ रहे थे मोस्टली नेटवर्क रिलेटेड जिसकी वज़ह से डॉक्टर साहब कनेक्ट नहीं हो पा रहे थे। आप जानते हैं कि डॉक्टर साहब यूएस बेस्ड हैं तो इसलिए नेटवर्क रिलेटेड इश्यूज से हम थोड़ा स्ट्रगल कर रहे थे बट क्योंकि आई एम श्योर लोग बेसब्री से इंतज़ार कर रहे थे डॉक्टर साहब के इस लाइव इंटरेक्शन का और पहले जो हमारे 2 पार्ट्स हुए हैं डॉक्टर साहब के साथ काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग, काफ़ी एनरिचिंग और काफ़ी नॉलेजेबल इंफॉर्मेटिव रहे हैं जिसका हमें काफ़ी सारा पॉजिटिव फीडबैक आया था। तो इसीलिए हम बेसिकली एक हिसाब से विवश हुए कि हमें फिर से डॉक्टर साहब को मजबूर करना पड़ा कि आप हमारे साथ एक और बार आइए और अब हम आपसे बातचीत करना चाहते हैं। तो so luckily Dr. Saab is here. He's able to join us. So हम लोग शुरू करते हैं। हम थोड़ा एक एक मिनट हम वी विल जस्ट चैट एंड देन वी विल स्टार्ट डिस्कसिंग द की टॉपिक्स। पीपल आर जस्ट ज्वाइनिंग इन। मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ जो अभी जुड़ चुके हैं हमारे साथ प्लीज़ इस सेशन को शेयर कीजिए और आपके अगर कुछ कमेंट्स हैं, कुछ व्यूज़ हैं, प्लीज़ फील फ्री टू शेयर इन द कमेंट बॉक्स। और हम जैसे कि आपने देखा था कि हमने वो सब कमेंट्स लास्ट टाइम भी वी हैड रेड देम आउट, हमने उनको फ्लैश किया था और डॉक्टर साहब से भी काफ़ी सारे कमेंट्स पे उनकी राय जानी थी। सो welcome, Dr. Saab. Warm welcome to you, and thanks for taking out time again today to be live
नमस्कार।
on TN.
नहीं, मैं भी आई वांट अपोलोजाइज। मुझे भी माफ़ी चाहिए लोग उससे, चूँकि मेरे को प्रॉब्लम्स हो गई यहाँ पर नेट में। आज वेदर यहाँ ठीक नहीं है, उस हिसाब से वेदर के हिसाब से मैं प्रोफेशनल भी नहीं हूँ उतना कंप्यूटर में कि जानूँ कि जब प्रॉब्लम खराब होती है तो क्या कैसे सोल्यूशन करते हैं। बट थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर गिविंग मी दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी। एक्चुअली मैं स्टार्ट में यही की कहना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि आजकल मैरिज सीजन जम्मू में बड़ा ज़बरदस्त चल रहा है। सो मुझे congratulations or best wishes to all the bridegrooms, and their parents and families. This is a wonderful time for you families, and I wish you all happy marriages and happy futures together. Namaskar.
डॉक्टर साहब आपने ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ बोली कि जो भी हम जम्मू से बाहर होते हैं, एटलीस्ट ये मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस भी है कि हम ये शादी का सीज़न बहुत मिस करते हैं क्योंकि वही एक मौका होता है जब यू गेट टू मीट योर नियर वंस एंड डियर वंस। सो हमारी तरफ से भी टीआरएन की तरफ से उन सब जोड़ियों को बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं उनके मैरिड लाइफ के लिए और फ्यूचर के लिए। सो डॉक्टर साहब एक्चुअली हमारे पास बहुत सारी बातें हैं करने के लिए। वी हैव लॉट ऑफ टॉपिक्स टू टॉक अबाउट बट there was one topic definitely we were going to talk about, and that was about the PM package employees issue. But there is one development that has happened today, and that makes it a very important topic to discuss. So probably we'll start with this if you are okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure if you have got got to see any such things coming to you on WhatsApp, or you have come across on social media. But there is one message that's doing rounds today, which is a threat letter from Kashmir fighters, and there have been such letters in the past also. But this one is particularly aimed at PM package employees, calling them, traitors and stuff. And they've also very concerningly, I mean, this is a cause of huge concern that they have also released a list of uh, PM package employees with their names, and they say, we know your names and will come for you. So this is a huge, huge concern. The two, three other things that I want to say, which are connected to this, we had recently one interview on TRN where we spoke with Sri Ajay Bharti ji, and he talked about the issue related to accommodation. And we had a huge kind of a backlash in terms of comments on that video, on that interview, from PM package employees in general, in particular, and KPs in general, that the main concern is not accommodation. The main concern is security. Uh, and now we have this threat letter coming out, and the fact that they have the names also with them, and very not very long ago, I had in one of the sessions raised this concern and raised this very strongly to the government authorities, that how come these government orders get leaked? I mean, this has become such a usual thing, such a commonplace thing, that any government order, that is passed, the next moment it is on the social media. And if it is to do with any person, then you have the names of the of those persons, you have the phone numbers. In fact, when Sri Rahul ji was martyred, before that, there was a order where there were phone numbers mentioned of 3 4 KP employees. So how can government be so lax, or the authorities be so lax with such things, and why are they not taken to task, these government officers? Because the names are very clear. Who is this department? Who is the person who has issued this? And why can't these documents be kept, strict? And especially given the kind of security threats we see in Kashmir, why can't this thing be regulated? So these are some of the aspects, but from you, we want to understand what is your view on the overall situation.
या ठीक है अगेन मैं लोग मुझसे अपोलोजाइज करूंगा कि बकर कशिर पर थक बकात करे तो हिंदी पर तो मगर बकर अग्रिस पर कात बिकॉज़ तम से रचना डिलीवरी टाइम इज कम तो बैक मैं अपन थॉट्स बेटर एक्सप्रेस करे you have to Roji, you have to actually Rakesh ji, you have to actually step back a little bit and recognize that जब Rahul ji was killed, that at that time I actually did a paper getting to my contacts because I wanted to find out, because in his case, specifically somebody actually came into the tahsil sub tahsil office in Chadura, walked in, and then went to the right room and went to the right desk and kill the man. So you cannot do all those things, simply because somebody on the street has taken up jihad and is trying to get Islamic republic or Islamic caliphate or whatever in the system. It is much more devious than that. And in that process of actually educating, and raising to my contacts in the valley and all that, and what was interesting was that once I finished that report, which was a very short report, actually the army was very pleased actually with what I had said, which was inconsistent with what they were thinking. They had given an there was a paper that had come out on targeted killings in Kashmir, which had been given to a NGO that works with the army, but they had not settled on these issues, which are, I would say, on the weeds level. It was a report more like done on the 10,000 foot level, where they were talking about Pakistan and Pakistani's proxies and all that. But my report was more on the ground, and let me read the 4 conclusions from that, because I don't want to take too much time. First one was: the targeted killings are facilitated by overground workers with the connivance of a few anti-national mid-level government bureaucrats affiliated with Jamaat-e-Islami. While most bureaucrats look the other way out of the concern or fear for their personal safety. So what I said was, not every government bureaucrat is necessarily a part of the overground workers movement affiliated to Jamaat-e-Islami, but most of them just keep quiet because they don't want to get hassled into the process. But there are. KPs were off the target list as long as the supreme leader of Jamaat-e-Islami was in charge. By that, I think I discussed that earlier program also.
Yeah.
Ali Shah Jilani has basically given that power to the,
Yes.
and that was not happening. That was number two. Number three, success in dismantling the terror ecosystem will depend to a large degree on the eradication of the overground workers and their linkages within the official bureaucracy. That effort is currently hampered by a disconnect between the local officers and their non-local superiors. And are you, Rakesh? Are you with me, or did we lose the link? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
there. I just brought you on the spotlight. Yeah.
all right. So in other words, the policing architecture must change to efficiently root out the anti-national elements within the bureaucracy as well as on the outside. That was number three. And the fourth and final one was the security situation has improved because the traditional nexus between the police and politicians has been broken. In other words, historically, if you have an elected government, they choose their own favorite people as the DIGs and DGPs and SSPs and all that, and that's how they can control whether today the mob should be fighting somebody, burning something, killing some people. So I said that nexus has been broken right now. So there is security situation has improved. But if there are elections ahead, after the election, the situation will deteriorate to the detriment of minorities. And as I said, why? Because if they this is as a UT, even as a UT, when we will get an elected government, yes, situation will be detrimental to the minorities because again because the politicians will control some, not all of it, because in the UT most of the authority still lies with the center, but some of the authority will turn to them, and believe it or not, they will use it because these are the same politicians. We know that none of them has changed. They are the same politicians, so they will manipulate just like they used to do it before. And then I also said, if the return to the union territory without this the OGW bureaucrat status, it will spell doom for minorities in the valley. These were my four. These were my four conclusions. That basically the nexus between the bureaucracy and the OGWs is primarily through Jamaat Islami elements. Now, why do I say this? The background? Now, it's very interesting. This report actually was sent by Army. Chinar Corps did actually send it to Delhi. And if you recall, last time I told you when I was in the valley, I was invited by the Army to actually come and sort of. I had a wonderful interaction with them. They actually gave me the flag which I have over here, and what I found out was that the Home Ministry actually had further sort of taken up the task that the state was not doing enough on getting rid of OGWs. Now, one of the things was that IB had itself given a list of about 900 to the Home Minister. When the Home Minister met with when some of our people a year back, privately, off the record, he told them, I have about a list of 900, and actually I will do it. I will finish them off in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, something like that. Now that has not happened, and the reason that is because the state machinery is basically dragging their feet, and you would say, I would say dragging their feet, but they are saying it's not that easy. You have to do it. You have to comply with the law. You cannot just pick up a guy just because you think he has been established. You have to have a proper. So it's essentially you have to get the approvals of the local bureaucrats, local judges, magistrates, local everything. So the process is going on slow. But I will tell you also, by the same token, Amit Shah, for all his other faults you may find out for him, but he did turn up the screws sometime after this report came out and all that. He basically has called multiple meetings in Delhi, and in that he has been saying you are not doing enough to get the Jamaat Islami people. Basically, we banned them and all that, but they're still around. So if you recall, in Pulwama, they basically all of a sudden they came and seized 28 properties, sealed them. Crores and crores of things were basically, and people may not remember it, but actually that was the first time when this what I call burn hall English kids, these burn hall English kids came out with a statement which was against the PM package employees also. because every time Jamaat Islami gets, the screws get turned on them, and when they immediately ask their kids to go on the web and start making discomfort for the Pandit community, they are the sort of the punching bag in the process. So that process started then. And that was also Kashmir fight, under the Kashmir fight. If you notice, this thing is actually even more blunt. They are saying that on one side, this government is actually taking over our houses, sealing our houses, while they are building houses for Kashmiri Pandits. It's very interesting. They have said that. And there was a sealing happened 2 days back. And you know what that sealing was? Those OG to Jamaat Islami and loosely affiliated with TRF, they were basically picked up, and the residences that were used, there were 4 residences that were used, and those 4 residences were sealed. And now you have this next Kashmir fight system. So what I'm saying is, these are all in response as the government is tightening the screws on the OGWs. And as I said before, this is Burnhall English. These guys cannot write a line in Urdu. Let me tell you that. And somebody even didn't tell them that Batas use PANDIT, not PANDITH. Anyway, the fact is that, why did they get the list? Heck, these bureaucrats are all in the system. We already know that. We already know that they are in the system. That's how the leaks take place. I think, Rakesh, you were right on the nose. I mean, the leaks are taking place. The fact is, this is a big problem. So every time some politician says, I want elections, I want this, things are gone better. No, things will not go better. Things have improved. I think it would be foolish for anybody not to think things have improved. When some of those people say Goliyan chal rahi hai, that's not true either. I mean, there are more than 10 lakh visitors visited the valley. I don't see bodies littered on the street when I visited over there. So it's not that discriminate. These were, as I said, my research when I was in Srinagar 1 month back, very clearly, these were all Spari killings. They were killed for a reason. There was money exchange. OGWs were involved. I even heard from somebody that there are some renegade people in the SOG who come from from the Jammu region of the western region of Jammu, who are based in South Kashmir, and some of those renegades may even be giving cover to these SOGs. So yes, so this is a problem. And as long as the SOGs, Jamaat, and other people are in the bureaucracy, yes, you are going to see these leaks, and you're going to. But I will tell you, by the same token, that the fact they took out this thing, I mean, I think I met a lot of young people in the valley, and they said, we are brave. We are not like our elders, which ran at the drop of the hat, and even though one can't use necessarily those words because things were at that time calamatic, and there was a genocide. The fact is they're saying, we blocked the highways, we blocked the roads, we were there, we took the tear. So I'm saying this is a different generation. I think this generation has much more resilience, and for them it is to understand, yes, they are tightening the screws on the OGWs, and there will be these kind of remarks taken out. But the thing is, it is so predictable. It is so predictable that you cannot even think there is anything, since other than a direct response to the fact that the properties are getting sealed, and government is finally taking action. During the political, when we had elected governments, they basically encouraged them. They would encourage they would even attend those funerals. I mean, they would actually make martyrs out of these criminals and terrorists. And of course, Indian polity is very strange. I mean, you can be a terrorist today, and tomorrow you can be in the assembly or parliament. But that's the nature of the Indian polity. But the fact of the matter is that our number, if we want to keep the safety going, we got to make sure the UT status and the elections, UT status stays and election postponed. I take LG on his word that he is determined to wipe them out in 2 years, and I'm determined as much as he is, that I'm telling in Delhi there cannot be a government, civilian government, until the OGWs are not threatened away. Now let me come to the other point you made, which was about the what Ajayji Gidari Rana ji said. I thought, quite honestly, I saw all the programs that you have done. Between the various programs I did, if I liked one or two most, I would put his in one of that category. I would also put the thing that Kishanji Khosa's program that you did. I think those were very interesting programs because they're discussing details that where everybody else can be bombastic and can be can say whatever they want to say to make people feel good and things like that. But they actually but those programs actually had a lot more merit. But I have also I have also gone into and talked to a lot of senior people, both senior people who are close to the administration, chief secretary's office, LG's office, also in some of the security advisors that are around the home ministry, advising the home minister Amitji. So I have spoken to some people, and I can tell you, first of all, categorically, there is not going to be a relocation. Relocation, the people are in Jammu. Oh, I didn't mean relocation. I meant that. No, there is. I can tell you categorically, there is not going to be a relocation. Because go back to what I said in my previous program. This program has kind of had its own origins of life. Now it is very different than how it started, but it didn't start. It started for the people that were meant at the bottom end of the economic scale. It started for the people who were basically going to be encouraged to come back and go back to their farms, fields, their local shops, the villages. And you remember in what Khosa Saab said. He said in the beginning, it was not intended to provide accommodations to every one of those people. Idea was they will stay in the transit camp and they will basically move on, eventually getting back to the thing. Now of course many things happened since. One of the things was the time scale at that time did not envision that 30 years from down the road will be still basically on the road, so to say, and we will be still having not returned back to our merged Kashmir. And the other thing is, of course, the program also was tuned up differently because from the initial activities which would have given the jobs essentially at the low end, but we got the other pay grades into the system and other job qualifications that came along when the actual jobs were distributed. So my point being, at the end, number one issue is the security. In my mind, the number issue is security. And people have a right to ask for that security, and people can talk about what they want in that security. Let me tell you, the officers I talked to made 2-3 very interesting comments. See, I am away from them. I don't have, I'm not selling anybody. I don't have anybody to talk about. Now, some people may like what I'm saying. Some people may not like what I'm saying, and I totally respect it. But I'm just sharing with you what I heard. You can ignore it. You can say this guy doesn't know anything, or you can. But I will tell you, I have spoken to a lot of senior people. 2-3 things are very obvious. First thing is, they are all dealing with this issue with a lot of sensitivity. They do recognize that at the end of the day, Kashmiri Pandits have been kind of given the short shrift, that we need to deal with them on a different scale than we do others. Now, I will say that, again, I'll repeat, I am not sure you would have that attitude if there was an elected government. I think elected government would have dealt in this matter. They would not have been this patient or this liberal and this kind of thing. They would have basically taken a certain tack, and of course, opposition political parties would have kind of beaten on them. But that's how the system works in India. But they all said we have to deal with this situation with a lot of consideration. I said, well, give me an example. They said, well, I'll give you an example. Example is if somebody comes to me and says, sir, I can't come to the job every day at the same hour because I have to have I feel very insecure if I establish my path and just do like this. Can I change my hours? And the answer was yes, you can, as long as you ensure that whether you are teaching a class or you have a meeting or you have something that's on the works, you basically make sure that those commitments are made. When you come and when you don't come, somebody said, well, I feel like I can only come 1 or 2 days a week, and they said, if there's a good reason for it, tell us about it and we'll find a way to do it. So what I'm saying is, very clearly, they were willing to do on a case by case basis, the things that they would deal with the person, but they are not willing to change on a blanket basis. Why? Because that's a policy change. You change something on a blanket basis, the policy changes are not have a certain way of going. Unfortunately, in Kashmir, our culture did not understand what rule of law means. Um, you know, we used to have people drive cars with a driving license. They actually even taken a test, much less even actually gone for a car, because everything was on. In Kashmir, you could buy anything. You could buy birth certificates. You could buy death certificates. You could buy marriage certificates. You could do anything because there was a price to be paid. It was one of the most corrupt states in India. And then on top of it, we had the darbars, we had the Sheikh Abdullah's darbar, we had the Farooq Abdullah's darbar, we had Mufti Saab's darbar. So you go to darbar, you plead, you touch, you try, and they would say, okay, done. Okay, well, I'm sorry to say it, but one of the big things again, when we did away with Article 370, we also did, 370, we also did away with the darbar attitude style of politics. It is the rule of law. That's what even Amit Shah is finding out when these guys are using the rule of law to make sure that these 900 OGWs aren't picked up quickly as he would like to do that. So rule of law means the policy cannot happen just because you are sitting on the middle of the road and you are demanding something and other. But as I said, on a humanitarian basis, they will consider cases on the each by each. And the number one issue in my mind, as I think as Ajayji also said, is in fact the safety and security. Whether people realize that or not, that is the issue. Now you can argue whether only that means only the housing is a component. No, there are various elements to that. As I said, I start with the fact that you have this large OGW base that has to be neutralized. That has been recognized. There are a lot of people who are basically at this time in that, they start. We have our own. Not only we have NIA, which is all over the thing. We have a SIA. SIA was constituted primarily to nail down the OGWs. And I'm telling you, the pace of the progress of that has gone up, because I think there was some. I'm now doing some rumor mongering. These are not the facts that I have actually ascertained. But there was this confusion that was created when essentially police was getting a little more than this. JKP was getting a little bit more favoritism by LG. And they were pretty much deciding how the things would work out. And I think one of the last meetings with the Home Minister actually brought that sort of sense of realism back into the way security grid has to be used up in the valley. And I think you are seeing much more dramatic effects in nabbing or killing the OGWs in the last 6 months than you have seen in the last, quite frankly, in the last 2-3 years, since we have the Article 370 has been removed. So I expect that process will continue. So I think people should realize. I hate to say this to the people on the ground. I see them outside the the relief commissioner's office and all that. I see two kinds of people there. Quite honestly, there's one kind of people who are leading most of the leaders. And then there are the young boys and girls, bare 20s, sitting there and basically sort of reciprocating the demands that are being made by the others. I checked on. By the way, I did before I go there. I did ask the these officers, what about these people who are in protesting? Well, they said we all know about their leaders, but as we told you earlier, there is a humane touch we are doing. So when I go to, we know the guys who has a business running in the uh, in the who has a business running and has become a leader and comes and pays off DDOs for the salary, some salary, 30%, whatever, and then never shows up at the job and stays in Jammu. He said, we are aware of those people. Now, why aren't you taking action? He says, have to understand. This is a humanitarian touch. Don't mistake our humanitarian touch with the fact that they think they are so smart, they don't know that we don't know what they are doing. We know some of the leaders are essentially have their spouses working full time in government service all the time. We know that some of the leaders who are there are connected to political parties, well-known political parties with a well-known agenda, essentially to subvert the process. I mean, historically they have always given lip service to being pro KP, but I don't have one item to show actually what they have done for pro KPs. So government is, these not government, but these people are all aware of those people, and they are all raising slogans right now. In fact, slogan has gone to the point where actually they are making political statements. Now, in a normal circumstances, they would be dismissed from jobs overnight. But again, I think people should appreciate this government actually is being very humanitarian in understanding your pain. The only thing is they cannot change the policy. So short of changing the policy, you got to tell, what exactly can you do? But to me personally, I feel after getting that lesson that I really feel sad for those young 20, 24, 25, 26-year-olds who are sitting there on the floor while their so-called political leaders are making these slogans and inviting all these political guys to show up there and as a force. They ought to be aware that they are not being served by this leadership. Quite honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, their fears are genuine, but they will not be solved by something that they are demanding. It is very clear they are not being. And I saw some of those leaders who showing up there who had a certain favorite slogan 32 years back. Rather than asking those guys, okay, you've been preaching these slogans for the last 30 years. What progress have you made? Tell me one little thing that you have done which tells you that you made a difference. I mean, there is no accountability. Anybody can say anything just to be a good leader. And I mean, fortunately, I'm not a leader. I'm an analyst. I look at the data and I react to how the data tells me what the facts are. But the fact is, you have no obligation. So my message is really to those people sitting on the floor, basically listening to these people who have, in my mind, who have their own agendas, and don't get taken over by those people. You have a mind of your bright young people. Don't spoil your careers. You can the line. You can do a lot of things, but it will not happen unless you don't understand that policy cannot be changed. Other things can be done. This is a very humanitarian attitude. I don't think it will. Even if I will tell you, even if BJP comes tomorrow to power and becomes a BJP guy becomes the chief minister, I will bet you even he will not be as sympathetic as you have a government right now. I think this is a very sympathetic government right now, because primarily it is coming from Delhi. Delhi would like to, Delhi sees fires all over the place. I don't know if anybody caught the news. I mean, we have a big news in West Bengal where things are blowing up and another criminal riot is about to happen. So India is a nation of mutinies. In that scale, I mentioned already before, Kashmiri Pandits problem is nowhere in the sight. I mean, as much as it's a big news for us, it's nowhere sight compared to all the other problems India has. But the government has taken a humanitarian attitude. My view is you express that in terms of your safety, and ask them what can they do for you, and what you can, what you they should be doing for you, and they will take each case on a case by case basis. That is the information that I had. I also had the information where there was an effort being made to meet LG. Well, I was told by two sources. I wouldn't, in my statistical analysis, two sources like a 75% confidence. It's not a 99% confidence. I need three sources for that. But two sources told me he's not going to meet them. He's not going to meet them until they don't make a gesture towards the fact that they are planning to essentially come back. Now it gets a little complicated because everybody knows the education department people. Most of them are not in the strike. Most of them are actually in the valley. uh, they will be, even though they have been not attending classes, or I mean not attending government services, they will be going back on the last day of the before the school year ends and all that. So I'm not going to get into that. Everybody knows what the game is. But the point is, for others, quite frankly, anybody who tells you I'm throwing this challenge right here, because there are a lot of people in Jammu thinking, LG is going to make us next day, 2 days, 3 days. What he's not going to meet you if you are not, you have to make some kind of a adjustment, recognize that he is on your side. But even after he has done what he thinks he has done up to now, and you still refuse to essentially acknowledge that things have, we have instead, a lot of bad words being used against him and things like that. But the point is, you need, if you want to meet him with him, you must first basically understand the policy is not going to change.
Dr. Saab, in fact, before we could connect to you, I was also talking about this issue and sharing my view. So I also was, I think there's some issue with my audio. Can you hear me? Audio?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
I am hearing some echo on my side. Okay, so then this is fine. So I was also sharing my view, saying uh, there should be a dialogue. I mean, stalemate will not help anyone. Protesting at a site and demanding something and not doing anything about it by walking a few steps, towards a solution, and then, sitting across the table, seeing what is feasible, what is not feasible. Otherwise, this stalemate is not going to help anyone. But as much as we would want to see this issue in isolation, uh, you know we also know, we can't totally disassociate this issue with the overall issue of the return and rehabilitation of Kashmiris. I mean, I have had this personal opinion uh, ever since this issue started, showing up in its current form, that any big program or any big project that you have, it's a very usual practice that you do a pilot first, and then you see how it goes. Then you fine tune your strategy for the larger project. You implement all those learnings from that pilot there, and then it helps you implement the larger program correctly. So in my view, I think this was a very good opportunity. I would say a godsend opportunity for government, especially, that here we had this lot of KPs, because on the other side some people are saying that KPs won't go back, but we had this willing set of KPs, which was a sample, a very good sample, uh, which went back. And if it was treated like a pilot and very seriously, then government may have had very good learnings, and they could have taken it as a first step towards the overall return and rehabilitation of KPs. But I think this got too confined from both ends, and narrowed down as just one simple employee, or a job issue, or a PM package, as we call it, as a career issue. Uh, so what are your views on this?
Well,
Don't you think we missed opportunity on that
that
that note?
yeah, I mean, the fact is that the idea was that this will actually now serve as a transitioning out of the camps into the surroundings around there. I mean, that was the it was funny because if you recall, Amit Shah actually made a statement in the parliament saying that yes, we are doing these clusters for the return and rehabilitation. Actually, that time, Mr. Relief Commissioner was Mr. T.K. Bhatt, and he actually uh, did not write a good memo, which was used by him in the parliament, and it was an embarrassment later for the home minister. Uh, uh, yes, that was the original goal. As I said, the goals kept on changing, but that was one of the things was that they will eventually be in there. But the fact is, actually, if you look at things had been, I've been going over various years, and at the beginning, I hardly used to see any employee, since 2010, 2011. I would hardly see any employee outside, quite honestly, in the markets and things like that, beyond the neighborhood of their transit housing area. But later, two things happened. One was I suddenly started seeing more cars in the housing. So in other words, people were getting now to the point where they were earning, power has increased substantially, and they were buying cars. And then with the cars, you could see they were doing frequent visits to Jammu, as well as they were actually moving around and going at least to various Bata Asthans and KP Asthans and all that. So I did see things basically sort of flowering out. More and more people outside, more people in the evenings, going around and things like that. I mean, where we had functions at various. Actually, Baramulla was one of the, I think, the leading edge of those things, where they would actually go out quite substantial in the evenings, days, nights. So that process had started. The problem was, at the end of the day, you really have to have economic engine which goes beyond government jobs. I mean, government jobs can only be so many things. So you have to actually have an economic situation where you actually can take benefit. So you go back to what was the home minister's vision when he met with those people in 2020, in Delhi. It was JKVM, where he said, "I have, my intention is, at the end of the day, to bring Kashmiri Pandits back, or whosoever wants to come back, but I can't do it until I don't have the economic progress and economic scale which will happen, and I don't see that happening. The big investments from Indian houses happening until." Quite frankly, the terrorism doesn't end, and I don't see terrorism until I have not finished with this OGW Jamaat Islami nexus in the bureaucracy. So he's on that path. As far as I'm concerned, he's on that path. Except it's taking him longer. It's taking him longer because, again, the system is saying you can't rush it. You have to do it by law. You yourself say Kashmir is now, JNK is now governed by law. So we got to be careful. We are doing the right law. So laws are becoming actually a vehicle, an engine for slowing the process down. But that's the nature of the beast in a democracy. But I think that was it. So I said again, I don't think you will see a real assimilation of Kashmiri Pandits into the society until you don't have the economic engine is now fired up in there, and economic engine is not fired up there, and there's a reason for it. And quite frankly, the reason is you still have the issues dealing with bureaucracy. Still trying to see if they can put some roadblocks in it. I mean, we saw it even in minor thing like housing of Kashmiri Pandits, how they basically stalled it for such a long time. They would argue about, they try to get land purchase. They want to know how much cut am I going to get, how much cut my cousin is going to get, and so on. So they got all bogged down until the last chief secretary came in and said, no, we're going to only use government land. And that really kind of speeded up the process. Now as you notice, every DC has been told by DUCOM he's got to show up every few weeks. But my argument has been always, whenever I talk to PM package employees, I say, you have to, in a democracy, it doesn't work without volunteerism. You guys have to yourself monitor those progress. You have to monitor the progress of, and if they're slowing down, go and complain to DIVCOM. Tell him that these housing are not coming along. But I'm glad to say, actually, for example, the housing is we had a news only other day when Bandipura opened up 7 blocks, and Baramulla, in Baramulla region, there are going to be another 16 blocks opening up. So we are and they're saying by July or thereabouts, almost all the construction will be completed. So things are moving, but I think community has also active interest in there. The other part, Rakeshji, is quite honestly, again, you cannot at the end of the day have a you cannot do these things in a vacuum. You cannot simply say, well, give me a piece of land and I'll come there. I explained to you the other day, getting a piece of land requires a whole lot. In fact, it was almost impossible in this government. And I have actually, I actually went through the different laws. The central government changed since Article 370 before they could actually authorize the land where Sonamarg, where the troops were given the base, was transferred to them, to the Indian Army. The laws of Kashmir on the land were so tight with the cabinet and with the chief minister that only he could decide who to give it to and at what amount he is negotiating that price. But the fact of the matter is, when you are dealing with the purchase of a large land it does require different laws that have been now implemented in the state, whether they are environmental laws, they are traffic laws, they are resource laws. I mean, there are different laws, and that means the civilians will have a big say. I mean, we know already, for example, and you saw that big famous case where Tatas couldn't win over, the Didi. Didi said no Tata factory here. So what I'm saying is, you have to, at the end of the day, have a very vigorous inter-community dialogue. And I think Hossain Saab was on right track. He said we don't need to have politicians, but you have to have a sort of a understanding. So my view is, you want Kashmiri Pandits back, you have to have both majority community and ourselves obviously are asking for it, but it cannot be done by vacuum. We have to, it has to involve, obviously you will say, well, why would Kashmiri Muslim do it? Well, they make all kinds of statements all the time, we're brothers, this, but it's time right now. Our problem is this. I saw that in reaction to the Kashmir Files, for example. Kashmir Files is an excellent movie. That record had to be made. If any Kashmiri Pandit, let me repeat it, if any Kashmiri Pandit feels that that movie should not have been made, then quite honestly, they don't have the passion to know what happened to in the years that it did in 1987, 89, 1991, 92, 93, 94, and 95, 96, 97, going all the way to 2012. That is because you were outside. That is because you were not born. That is because you were a kid. Because you cannot say that documentation is important. Now, hundreds of Kashmiri Muslims who are my friends, still are my friends, all sent me emails. Vijay Sazawal Saab, what do you think of this movie came out? I said, this damn well is a movie which fondly catalogs what happened to Kashmiri Pandits. It's a record that you cannot hide from. Now, I'm not asking you, Bashir, that you have to be responsible for what happened to them or to Parvez. You are not the one who did it. But this was happened. And the sooner you recognize it, the better it is. And we have Kashmiri Pandit community people who are shy. Oh, no. We're upsetting them. Okay. You shouldn't be saying that in Delhi. I can understand Kashmiri Pandit saying that in Jammu, who is going to Srinagar, or poor people in Srinagar. I can relate to every Srinagar person since I have dealt with them for the last 25 years. Yes, it's appropriate for them to say, it reached threshold, because it did. I mean, that's a fact too. But you cannot deny that was a reality. So what I'm saying is, part of our problem in dealing with Kashmiri Muslims is we are either eager to say, let's forget everything and you were brothers and let's move forward. And the other side say, these guys, these SOBs, we should never deal with them. They're untrust. No, the correct medium is somewhere in the middle. where you deal with them with respect, deal with them with brotherly love, but tell them, you know, uh, forgive maybe, forget never, and that has to be the phrase. And I believe my own testimony is I have not lost a single Kashmiri Muslim friend by taking that stand. But they all know eagerly that maybe he is a Kashmiri Pandit talking to us, so maybe he will agree that Kashmiri File was a bad movie. Now, so I know I'm not like that. I believe that that movie had to be made. It was documented, but I have not lost any friend. Now, I will also tell you by same token, and that's perhaps why some of them are still perhaps talking to me. I did not producer's style of operation. I did not like him using his connections with the party and all that. He compares his film to the Schindler's List. Okay, and Schindler's producer. He's a lifelong Democrat. He pays money in millions of dollars to Democrats, but he never plugged a Democratic political party when he was showing Schindler's List, because the solution is not Democratic political party. The problem is the focus is on the people, the Jews who suffered from the Holocaust. That is what our producer forgot, that he should have let the movie stand on its own. He didn't have to do any speaking things. He didn't have to, he didn't have to raise one party to heaven and other party to hell. That was a wrong thing to do. And I still say that with the same breath when I say that movie is important. But I think the movie producer's attitude was, in my opinion, atrocious. He should not have done that. But coming back to the issue of dealing, we have to deal with the community, with the majority community. It has to be done in a fair manner. It has to be done in a balanced manner. It's the only manner in which you can actually talk about returning in large numbers, because even if tomorrow government says, okay, economically we are ready, everything is ready, Kashmiri Pandits can be now, come in. I'm telling you, it cannot happen until you don't solve the issues that deal with land acquisition and other factors which involve community dialogue. So sooner you start inter-community dialogue. Now somebody will say, well, if I start inter-community dialogue today, will I get will I have land 1 week or 1 month or 1 year from now? No, that process has to. These are all parallel tracks. Unless we don't get rid of the OGWs, the terrorists, and so on and so forth, and does the economic engine doesn't fire up, you're not going to get that. But it's a unfortunately, you see, of course, we're talking time. The time is such that how will that can one argue that you can do it with the people that are waiting that are waiting right now in Jammu and all that? No, I think this is the only vehicle in the between. The vehicle is the vehicle of getting people through these jobs. I'm sure there'll be more openings coming up. And by the way, if any of these people resign because they don't want to be relocated, I will assure you, for every job, there will be 100 to 200 applications from Kashmiri Pandits asking them to fill up. These are very lucrative paying jobs. People in India don't know that. I was talking to some of the people in Delhi. They had no idea what the pay scales and pay rates of some of these people are. I mean, so anyway, I'm not dwelling on that. But the point is that yes, there could be a process, but it's too early, too premature to talk in those terms.
So, Dr. Saab, I mean, uh, what do you think about the long-term viability of KPs as a political constituent in J&K? I mean, how to
See,
create
that
a
is
political space for KPs?
see, this is the problem. This is my most what I will say is pain that I get is because Kashmiri Pandits talk a lot, but really don't have a good assessment, a neutral assessment of asking. I'm looking in the mirror and saying, really, what is my political worth? I mean, as an individual, of course, everybody is noble. Everybody has a soul. Everybody is values is indeed, unquestionable. It's priceless. But as a community, you know, we don't have, as I said last time also, we don't have a political footprint, and we don't do things that people in other communities do. you know, I'll tell you, Indian polity is very strange. A lot of people say, well, when people go out on the street, they do the marches, they are basically shouting for or asking for slogans and all that, demanding justice. Who are they actually appealing? See, people think on the surface they are actually trying to convince the government to change its mind. The truth is that is not the reason why these people are out there when they are making demands outside. When they come out in large numbers, they are actually appealing to their own community to wake up and join their movement. The time is now that you should come and join this movement because our government is unfair to us. So when the politician listens, he doesn't listen because of these people, because of the people who are on the street agitating. The politician listens because he certainly realizes they are waking up their larger population at the base, the silent majority community, and that silent majority community is going to get up and is going to throw them out of their jobs. It is the silent majority of the same community. Otherwise, for example, you do a demonstration in Hindus do a demonstration in Orissa. I mean, that has no impact on Hindus elsewhere. It doesn't. The fact is, they are demonstrating. They are basically asking their silent majority of their own community to wake up and join the thing. Now, in our case, it doesn't apply. Our silent majority or other majority, it doesn't matter. We are minor in numbers, so we do not have a political footprint. On top of it, quite frankly, whatever we had, we are not using it well. We are not using we're not using the way the polity works in India. We are not registering as potential Kashmiri Pandits from the state. We are not registering people. I mean, I would think after Amit Shah told that directly, as I said, this meeting was in June of 2019 with some BJP senior cadre, KP cadre, when he told them very clearly, you guys got to register, even though you may not make a dent, you got to register. And has any effort have been done? No. Nobody is saying, in Jammu, Delhi, wherever, but Mumbai, we got to stop being registered as constituents. We got to, whether that Form M is a pain or whatever, we got to do that pain and we got to register ourselves as constituents of the constituency that is back in the valley. Nobody does that. We have not registered ourselves as political force in the valley. We have no political footprint. So as long as we have no political footprint, I mean, what is the success to our leaders? Our success to our leaders is my press releases. I have issued more press releases than you have, or my press release was published by Daily Excel share or something like that, or I have done more programs on NewsX than you have. I mean, that is the criteria of our leaders. It's not, here's one thing that I asked for and I got. Here's one demand that we made, because he knows at the end of the day, he has not brought his community together to create a political footprint. We need to create a political footprint. So first process is we got to have registration in the state. We got to do that kind of thing. Now the other thing, as I said, I think you said earlier about also, which was how do we talk to the government? It's very interesting. The person in charge of security advising the LG told me that register an NGO. These PM employees have to register an NGO. Make sure it's inclusive. In other words, it has to have members from all the various factions. I had only thought there were only 3 factions. They told me there are 5. So I don't know what those other 2 are, but they said there are 5 factions. You make sure they're all. I mean, I knew there was the PM minority print and PM package. What is that? APOAS. But they told me there are 5, and so they're saying it as an NGO, register it with an MHA certification. And once you are get recognized, then you can formally approach the government with your demands. Till then, whatever memorandum you are doing, there is no obligation actually from the government to do anything about it. Now, they may be, as I said, there's a humanitarian cause that they are addressing, and they may be doing that. But really to actually answer from the government, you need to have that kind of an action. So what I'm saying is, Rakesh, I mean, we have not done the basic, basic one, two, threes of how political processes work in India. All we are good at is making speeches, uh, good at assembling people, and issuing press releases and doing the speeches on the TV and all that. But as a political force, we don't exist.
Right. No, you made a very important observation and something that you shared, and I would again reiterate, because there are, I believe, a lot of PM package employees also listening to us right now, watching this program. So a very important statement, couple of statements that you made, and this would kind of recapture our discussion till now on the PM package issue. So one is that uh, what you said, that you got a very clear categoric message from government that uh, relocation will not be possible. So anything short of that can be discussed. We can sit across the table and the best case scenario that is possible can be arrived at. Uh, the second thing that you said just now, very very important, and I think people should make note of it. That if you want government to be obliged to, uh, take your issue into cognizance and then reply to it and do something about it, then you have to register as an NGO and then submit a memorandum. Otherwise, you are just wasting time. So we'll move on, Dr. Saab. Uh, so we were talking about, and you were mentioning about, how we wasted time, and not, as we had many levers and we could not pull them at the right times, in creating a political space for ourselves. Uh, what are your disappointments regarding the community?
Well, let me, as I said, I think 2009 was a watershed year, quite honestly. If anybody wants to, if you are a student of Kashmiri Pandit history, Kashmiri Pandit history, if you really want to know, not what happened yesterday or day before yesterday or 2 months back or 3 months back, but really what defined the current path that we are on, you got to look at 2009. And I call 2009 a tale of two cities. Why do I call it Tale of Two Cities? Because obviously there were things before, as we entered 2009, there were things happening in Srinagar, and there were things happening in Jammu. In Srinagar, where I have told you this before also, and I'll repeat it. My focus has been primarily on the valley, not what was going on in Jammu, where there were a lot of people basically to help. Those guys were essentially without help. What were they? So I'll briefly talk about them before I switch to the Jammu. So what were the challenges that they were facing at that time? They really had the same issues you are. In a sense, they are already relocated, quote unquote. But there were two main issues. The one dealt with the jobs, and the other dealt with the security. And over the years, and I'm not history, there were two organizations that were there. There was Motilal ji was heading the Hindu Welfare Society Kashmir, and our Tiku Saab Sanjay ji was heading the KPS, Kashmir Pandit Sangharsh Samiti. So we try to, I try to. I'm familiar with both of them. I've been working with them, both of them, for a long time. I didn't want them to split, but they split. So I said, I'm not going to take the sides. I'm going to help both of you, because that's, you need help. So anyway, we decided on a global basis that KPSS will focus on jobs, trying to get jobs, because those people were not getting anything. I mean, you guys don't understand. In Jammu, things were bleak in the valley. Those guys overage, not well qualified, not well educated. Anyway, they focused on, and then HWSK focused on security. I'll tell you, at that time, Sheikhpura was done. Three buildings had been done. Three blocks had been done, and we were trying to get 51 families which were totally exposed in Budgam. We were trying to get them into the Sheikhpura complex. Now, Sheikhpura complex at that time was only 30% full. We're trying to get these 51 families in, and you will not believe the kind of bureaucratic hurdles we had. Now we thought previously, oh well, it was Azad's time and all that. Then there was the governor's rule, and so at that moment, Bohra Saab, who was actually, I knew him from a long time, who was the governor, uh, and he said, I can't help. The bureaucracy here is incredible. I cannot get past, what I can do and all that. I cannot get past. But he said, you know what? He feels like Omar Abdullah is going to become the next chief minister. Elections will be held in 2008 towards the end of the year. So why don't you cultivate him? So he gave me his phone number, his email, and all that stuff. So I started contacting him. Because, as I said, our mission is to get these 51 families from
But
Badgam into the thing, and there were also 15 families in Mutton, by the way. So 15 families in Mutton, we wanted to get them also into the Mutton camp, and there was no success. So I started cultivating him. Umar, and then of course there was a deal made between NC and Congress, and Umar Abdullah became the chief minister, and actually he took the oath in Jammu, and actually I met him in Srinagar on 8th of January 2009. Now it was very interesting because at that time we were dealing with on the parliamentary committee, we were dealing with Ahluwalia. I think his name was introduced first time by Ajaji. For those who don't know him, he is actually the pioneer fellow. He's a Rajya Sabha member at Sadarji from us, and he took active interest in Kashmiri Pandits, maybe because he knows what's going on in Assam. I'm talking about those days. So he had been representing us in Sushma Swaraj's committee. So the committee, everybody knew that these 4,000 Kashmiri Pandits who are there, they will get special mention in the report, and actually they did. If you look at this, by the way, all the reports are on my website www.kashmirforum.org, kashmirforum.org. They're all there. The Sushma Swaraj report, the Raya report, and all that. So it was interesting that I asked for this meeting, and he gave it to me. So I came from the US. I took both Shri Moti Makalal Ji Bhatt as well as Sanjay Ji to it was in Hari Nivas. The meeting took place. He had Khurshid Rabu in the meeting. He had who was his principal chief secretary, personal secretary, and also Aslam Wani and Rana, who was those days with NC. So it was a pretty good meeting. He really assured me that it would be taken care of. And of course, right after that meeting, the report from the Sushma Swaraj committee became public, and it talks about right one of the big paragraphs. The committee also expresses deep concern, pathetic condition of about 4,000 Kashmiri Pandits living in the valley, and so he took it. And at that time, he said, "Now what happened later was he didn't do anything about it. He didn't do anything about it because he saw, quite honest, the government focus from Delhi was primarily on the people which were in Jammu. So he basically said, why should I waste my time with the people in the valley when actually the government will be happy in Delhi if I just deal with the Jammu people." So the balance was shifted. He all of a sudden now is looking at the Jammu thing, and then in the same year, it was on the 16th of September 2009 that the government order came out for the Apex Advisory Committee, as Khosa Saab said, it's not Apex Committee, it's Apex Advisory Committee. And then he described various things that happened. We also did a census, by the way, in that year through KP of Kashmiri Pandits who are living in the valley, and it was a very interesting statistic how people are distributed in the different districts and where they are and what they are not doing. But the point I was making is 2009 committees formed, committee meets with, I think, Raman Bala, as was said. But more importantly, I'm tracking now. What will Umar Abdullah then we all know that on just a few days after the order was passed regarding how the government, this was the central government's order about honorable prime minister's package for return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri migrants to Kashmir Valley. It's very important, and that's where they said about this assistance and all that stuff was done, and then subsequently 420 was done. But I kept tracking Umar Abdullah, quite frankly, until he held his first meeting with the Apex committee, and it was very interesting because that commi- that meeting actually uh, that meeting took place in 2012. And I think there was a recollection made by somebody that it was 2013, but actually it was made in 2012. And I noted all the points that were raised at that meeting, and none of them said anything about the bond. I think it's important to recognize that nobody said there was discussion done. Actually, most of the discussion took place on the temple bill, and then there was discussion about the clusters. There was discussion about the jobs was there, and in the jobs, of course, Chief Minister said, "Well, I can't do anything because you Kashmiri Pandits have gone to the court," and I think that was mentioned also by Khosa Saab that 200 employees had made a court, and so the whole process. I mean, he didn't say that. Well, there are only few cases that are held up by that. Other cases can continue. He can still he still can get the employment notices out and try to hire people. And also Kozasov alluded to the fact that some members actually came to not just verbal blows but physical blows in that meeting. So the meeting was a disaster, even though the chief minister actually praised the meeting and said he did a great job. Kashmiri doing are completely in consonant with his government and his policy and all that. So he basically used them, and quite honestly, that was both the high point and the low point of the advisory committee's role in the whole process. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, 2009 really set the pace for where we are today. The community was together. Omar Abdullah, basically tried to take advantage of these people. He would call this meeting a week's notice when they could not prepare for the and the other thing is that the focus of the people was primarily on other issues, not really on the bond things that they were keen to go to jobs. They were keen to have jobs, and so uh, uh, 2009, in my mind, basically set the pace that you see today. So people can reinterpret and do all kinds of things. What is the location, how long is the bond, things like that. But the fact is that history is such that you can't escape it. History flows in a certain direction, and that's how. And quite frankly, what we have to do now is just figure out, okay, if that is the history, where do we go from here? And that is the challenge we all face today.
Right. So, Dr. Saab, we talked about you know this very strange uh, you know kind of a situation where there was a genuine issue about people in Kashmir and KPs in Kashmir, and then for government, uh, the situation in Jammu, for I mean things about KPs in Jammu took precedence over that. Very uh, it's a very interesting insight that you shared. Um, but given now where we are, and you have been uh, interacting with senior officials who are close to LG and also in the central government. So what is the outlook of government towards KPs at this juncture?
Well, I mean, broadly speaking, I mean, everybody knows if there are no KPs at the end of the day in Kashmir, that is not, it would be a monumental failure for the government. Then all these efforts of removal of Article 370, everything else, it's kind of, it's kind of foolish and baseless. So these things have been done with the idea that we want. I mean, there's a psychological game even today going on in Kashmir. I mean, I've seen that. I've seen it myself. When I used to go previously, talk to my friends there and Muslim friends, they would always tell me, Sazal Saab, yeah, I am with India, but I'm doing that as a favor to India. you know, this time it was not that. This time when I went, most of them said, you know what, I'm doing a favor to us. And the reason was they had for the first time seen the economic benefits of peace economy. The benefits have been tremendous. The tourist trade has kind of woken their eyes what the potential is here. They don't have to go all the way down to Travancore and other places to open up the shops. They can as well be here with their families and do the same or more businesses now here. I mean, they literally understand that the value, especially among the younger people. I met younger Kashmiri Muslims also. Very clear, very, very, very. The girl who, for example, does the shows, the fashion shows. She said, I know it will provoke those guys in but it's like not like Tehran, it's like Iran, where young girls are basically challenging the system. She says, I'm challenging the system. I'm challenging the orthodoxy because she says orthodoxy is closely integrated with the attitude towards anti-India. So if I break the orthodoxy, I will break that anti-India bias. So there are, so what I'm saying is that I see a lot of change happening there. And I think that change is good. But by the same token, you have to understand the funds who are basically their backs are to the wall are getting more and more desperate. And so that's why you see these outbursts once in a while. I don't personally, quite honestly, I don't take even the government distinguishes between which are the real threats and which are not. When the journalist issues came up, they were real threats. They went after them and they found uh, the culprits, and they're all basically being investigated right now. In Kashmiri Pandit case, because we know the targeted killings were really Supari killings. They were not random killings, but these are these burn hall kids. Why do I call them burn hall kids? By the way, is because all the Jash, if you know Jamaat Islamic culture and cadre, you will know that all their senior executives send their children to burn hall. And I'm not taking this personally against Amitabh Bhattu, who is also a Burnhall graduate, and I'm certainly not self-serving myself, who is a Bisco Memorial School graduate. But they're all students, and for them to get these names and addresses is not a big deal. As I said, one of them got from his parent somewhere in the system. But going back to your question, I think government is absolutely determined that Kashmiri Pandits will exist in Kashmir Valley. Uh, yes, they have a little concern about how many will return, but they know many will return. And quite frankly, they are bothered by the fact that most of them who are actually in this process, especially now, you see, in a sense, now government understands the people who have gone to the valley and staying in the valley. I talked to a lot of the PM package. I'll tell you, a lot of them had left other jobs because they saw this as an opportunity to relink with their land, with their land of their ancestors, with their temples, with their culture. A lot of them, I started speaking to one fellow, and his English was impeccable. I said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like a racist, but your English is not what I call." JK English. Your English looks like from a real DPS school in somewhere in India. And he said, yes, I am. And but I came back because I really, both my wife and I really, really, really enjoy being the land where our and so you have actually in that cadre which is already in the valley, people that are really interested in staying there. So that's a good sign. They will find a way to do it. They are doing it. their children have enrolled in the schools. One day I called a Kashmiri Pandit, and I said, he said, sorry, sir, I can't talk to you right now. I'm going over to my friend's house. Uh, and then later when I talked to him, I said, I don't mean to pry in your private life, but I'm just curious. Was there a Kashmiri Pandit or a Muslim? Or who? He said, no, it was a Kashmiri Muslim. He's a very good friend of mine, and his children are my children are best friends. And so I'm seeing, as much as there is extremism in their community, there's extremism in our community. But at the end of the day, Kashmiri Pandits have to coexist with their Muslims in the valley if they want to live in the valley. If they don't want to live in the valley, then they can sit there and make slogans of all kinds, and basically talk about jihad against India, Pakistan, against Islamic this thing, that thing. But if you're in, so the challenge in the valley today is, quite honestly, how soon can the job be done where we will neutralize. Theoretically, you can say it will never happen. It will not. You cannot get to the point of zero terrorism. That simply, the U.S. has terrorism. I mean, that will not happen. But will it reach to the manageable level? Most security analysts say the with which we are going is going to take 1 to 2 years. So I think the Kashmiri Pandits have absolutely a future in there. How many of will return? Quite frankly, is an individual decision. I cannot sit and judge anybody for his fears and his thing. What I'm saying is that anybody who says हाँ गोलियां चल रही हैं गोलियों से बड़ा, that's a lie. If गोलियां चलती होती तो 10 लाख 10-12 लाख टूरिस्ट नहीं आते और and believe me, when you are moving in that crowd, you are indistinguishable from them. They're all the same. I mean, how would they know who you are? Well, of course, if you're in a certain job, you are in a certain office, but government is very conscious about it these days. I mean, you have to understand. Police was a little bit slack. They have been, Dilbag Singh has been given very strong orders now that he cannot just take it easy and be on the basically sort of do more dramas and all that stuff. So I think you have, I don't know if people have understood it, but if you look at the news in the last 2-3 months, you'll see that a lot of screws have been turned off, and the SIA is absolutely right now, right after all of these 900 unsavory characters. And I think close to 100 more have been already arrested.
Right. And hearing you, and if I have to recap again what you said, the essential message here is that this is a government that you got to collaborate with. You cannot maintain a stable situation where uh, you know you are sitting at one corner and expecting some magic would happen, whether it is this PM package issue or the larger issue of return and rehabilitation of countries. You got to engage with government, collaborate with government, and then take things forward, and not just with government. If we are taking the long-term view of return and rehabilitation of KPs, then we also got to engage with Muslims in the valley. That I think is the key takeaway here.
Yes, I think you have summarized it well.
All right, Dr. Saab, thank you very much. Would you like to say something, as a parting note?
Yeah, I mean, closing, I will say, I'm sure a lot of people, especially the PM package employees, may not be happy with what I said. I recognize that, and they have a right to, if they're angry at me, they be angry at me. But the fact is that anger is not going to change. The rumor mongering that is going on in Jammu. Quite honestly, I'm not only saying it's a policy change. I'm saying LG is not going to talk to anybody. There are some people there sitting. Oh, you know what? If this chief secretary goes and the new one comes, and maybe our own man there, and that will make it. No, he's not going to. Nothing is going to change until you don't make that understand that and respect the fact that JK has entered into national laws, and in that lawmaking, the policy decisions cannot be changed by a trivial manner of being on the hartal for 90 days or on 6 months or whatever. You have to follow the course, and government is going to be humane, is going to be tolerant of what your issues are. but you cannot dictate a solution. The solution comes from a policy. Policy comes from bureaucrats and others, security people, army people. I mean, there are different people, even parliament, that were involved in creating that policy. So you cannot dictate a policy. Policy has to be done by the people who do policy in a democracy like any country, including India. You can only what you can do is you can challenge it in the court. I have said that in the last meeting. If anybody wants to challenge it in the court, and Rakesh, I didn't answer your question about disappointment. I'm really, if there's one segment of our community that I'm disappointed with, it's really the lawyers. I will be very honest with you. Um, uh, I think we deserve. Our community has eminent lawyers, both in Delhi, Jammu, elsewhere. What I would have is really some lawyers getting together and saying, what are the legal ways we can get some relief to these people. I don't see that happening. I mean, the only active lawyer, I won't name him, he and his wife. I mean, they are looking for genocide bill, which is really totally out of place. It's like I remember. Jagmohan used to say, the way the government of India deals with Kashmir is that if you have pain in the leg, they are fixing up the arm. So they're healing the arm when the pain is in the leg. So that genocide bill is like that. It doesn't solve the problem of what the thing is going on right now. But I have a disappointment that our legal community and quite frankly, I tell you, we have a lot of eminent lawyers both in Delhi and Jammu, who could come together, who could do some kind of a solidarity, express solidarity through some, not through speeches, but through some actions, whether they are challenges making it and more substantiated than what has been done in the past. Especially looking at these different orders that came down subsequent to making the policy, whether there was any space in those orders that we could make some changes. So that is one of my disappointments.
All right, Dr. Saab, thanks a lot again for talking to us. It was again wonderful hearing your views on these issues. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you again very
Thank
soon.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar. Namaskar to
Namaskar.
everybody. Thank you. I'm again, I apologize for program had some issues at the beginning because I was not getting the proper signals here. Thank you very much. Namaskar.